Islam, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Moorish Light Continues. The Revolution is a podcast. And as always, we'll begin with prayer because we need to pray. Allah knows we need to pray. Islam, 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 Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Of course, we begin by giving praises to the causeless cause and the rootless root from which all things have grown, the great God Allah. I honor the last prophet in this dispensation, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the first, second, and third forms. I give honor to Grand Sheikh John Givenzeal, who steadfastly built upon the foundation laid by the founder. I extend honors to modern day Moses and Aaron, Moses the God man, Grand Sheikh Richardson Dingle Eel, and the prophet Grand Sheikh Timothy Dingle Eel, modern day Moses and Aaron. I acknowledge the forefathers who sacrificed their lives so that this nation must actually experience a true birth of freedom. I honor my home temple, 1055 North Milton Avenue. I honor the Grand Council there. We have as well as our home temple here in Baltimore, 2900 West Pressman Street. Our sister temple, 2900 West Pressman Street. I'd like to give recognition to our Grand Sheikess, National Grand Sheikess Tiffany Jones Day. I'd like to give honor to our former Grand Sheiks, that would be Grand Sheik Robin Curlill and his wife, as well as to Honorary Supreme Grand Sheik Ronald Thorneal and his wife. I also would like to give honor to Supreme Grand Sheik and Sheikess Prather Eel. And I'd like to give honor to all who are listening today or in the future. The Moorish Light continues. A podcast is committed to the revolution through enlightenment. As the Soul School, our mission is to shine light on confusion, teach foundational truths, promote unity, and manifest the ultimate goal of the Moorish movement. We affirm that the truth is the light, and the light must shine. Our aim is not to dispute matters such as charters or leadership positions. Instead, our focus is on establishing a foundation for the Moorish movement rooted in love and understanding. And as you know, we open our program up reading from the Holy Quran of Mecca, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. And we're going to be reading, this is Surah 10, and we're reading ayats 106 through 108. It says, "Nor call on any other than Allah. Such will neither profit thee nor hurt thee. If thou dost behold, thou shalt certainly be of those who do wrong. If Allah do not touch thee with hurt, If Allah do touch thee with hurt, there is none can remove it but He. If He do design some benefit for thee, there is none can keep it back. Keep back His favors. He causeth it to reach whomever of His servants He pleases, and He is oft forgiving, most merciful. And the footnote says, Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Even when we suffer under trials and tribulations, it is for our good, and no one can remove them except He. When in His plan, He sees it be best for all concerned. On the other hand, there is no power that can intercept His blessings and favors, and His bounty flows freely when we are worthy, and often when we are not worthy of it. Say, O ye men, now truth has reached you from your Lord, and in this instance it's from the Prophet Noble Ali. Truth has reached you through Prophet Noble Ali. Those who receive guidance do so for the good of their own souls. Those who stray do so to their own loss. And I am not set over you to arrange your affairs. Because what that means is that Allah gave you a will to choose. He's not going to make decisions for you. You have to make your own decisions. And if you make the wrong decision, don't blame it on Allah and don't blame it on the Prophet. It says that Fuquan, the criteria between right and wrong, has been sent to us from Allah. If we accept guidance, it is not as if we confer favors on those who bring us guidance. They suffer unselfishly for us in order that we may be guided for our own good. On the other hand, if we reject it, it is our own loss. We have a certain amount of free will, and the responsibility is ours and cannot be shifted to the teachers sent by Allah. So a lot of us, I had a brother tell me the other day, well, the prophet ain't nothing but a man. Well, would you want a ghost to come and talk to you? I'm not sure. Billy Goat, I don't know. What should a prophet look like if not a man? And according to law, he has to be a man. So take accountability for your actions. Don't play the blame game. Take accountability for your actions. We all have to do that. We have to take accountability. And so our program today, give me 1 second here. And one of the things that I do have to say is that you cannot be a Moorish American with hate in your heart. You defeat your own purpose. Moorish science does not teach hate, and it does not teach intolerance. Those are not components of being a Moorish American. And I just want to make that very clear, because front of our Quran says He came to teach us to love instead of hate. And in understanding that love, we get to see our equity among men. We don't see men as high and low. We see them as our equals, our peers. So today we're going to focus on Veterans Day, and I'm going to focus on our forefathers who fought during the Civil War, because for some reason those are the only soldiers that actually fought for us, for our salvation, for their salvation. They gave their lives for us. But to understand how that works, I have to read a definition. So, of course, I'm learning. So, every time I want to share something, I have to share my screen. Ooh. Let's see, where are we? So I thought that it would be best to share this lesson uh, by beginning to define chattel slavery, because I think some of us don't even understand what happened to us. So AI had a very good definition that I could agree with, didn't have to argue with. So let's read it. Chattel slavery is a system where enslaved people are treated as personal property or chattel to be bought, sold, traded, or inherited like livestock or furniture. This form of slavery involves the complete denial of rights, viewing people as commodities rather than human, and is often hereditary, meaning the children of the enslaved person are also born into slavery. Yeah, it says it was a prominent form of slavery in America, and I don't deal in the Atlantic trade, transatlantic slave trade as they call it. But now let's talk about that inherit. We carry the names Johnson, Jones, Brown, Williams, and a variety of other names. Those names still label us as property, no matter how much people determine that they're going to deny that, and all of a sudden I'm equal, but I'm still carrying your name. We from two different continents, but we still carrying the same name. Does not make sense. So we have to think about, well, how does this end? Now, it got to a point in the country where they wanted to nationalize slavery. In order to do that, we went into what is called the Civil War. When the South fired on a nation, they were so cocky until they said, "We're gonna go kill us." I'm ready to tear this up. We're gonna go kill us a Yankee and be home for dinner. That's how quickly and how cocky they were in their mission. And so, as we take a real good look at this chattel slavery, we better take a real good look as to what process happened to move us from slavery to freedom. Something did not happen. How do you know? Because of our names. How do you know? Because we still calling ourselves Negro, Black, Colored, and whatever we can think of. How do you know? So now the physical aspect of it went away to a degree. But if they didn't change our names, guess what else they didn't change? Our minds. And so we have progressively, from generation to generation, developed the mental slavery mindset. How do we know? Our children go to a school, a curriculum we did not develop, and That curriculum does not teach our children equity or equality, but it justifies mental slavery. And we go and we get degrees to teach and continue the process. We go and get degrees in law to teach and continue the process. We go get business degrees to teach and continue the process. Then we have our watch guards who keep a certain amount, keep an elite group of folks to watch and promote that system. We call that, they call it the boule, or they may call it the fraternities and the sororities. Greeks, I think they call themselves, which is not even who you are. So we push that agenda. So let me not get too far away from what my topic is. So I just wanted to make you see chattel slavery in modern day terms. Um, we push government policies because we are the only people that I know that does not have an agenda. And we assume because somebody else comes in that they're going to put us on their agenda. They're not. Because you don't have an agenda to give them. So, back to this Civil War. So, the war begins. And they're fighting. The Union is losing. Some proclamations are issued. And I will say them for you. You have the proclamation of September the 22nd, 1862. The proclamation of December 1st, 1862. The proclamation of January 1st, 1863. And you also have the proclamation of December 8th, 1863. Now, the first three deal with ending slavery. Each one served a different, well, September the 22nd, of course, was the proposal. And then on December the 1st, they told you the terms to carry it out. And then on January the 1st, it began to be implemented. And guess what? We were able to enlist in the armed services. Now, they say that there were 180,000 of us who served in the Union Army and 19,000 in the Navy. So that's almost 200,000. And remember who we're fighting for. I need you to remember that. They're fighting for us. They understood slavery, but for some reason, we can't get it. And the thing that you need to understand, Fort Pillow, a massacre, which even after we surrendered, um, they skinned us up. See, you don't understand the gravity. And I'm not saying this for you to develop a hate, but I want you to understand when you call yourself black, what actually happens. What does that mindset say? In Fort Pillow, after we fought and surrendered, and some of us got skinned alive. Mm-hmm. See, this was a man-to-man war. This was not I'm gonna drop a bomb or hit you with some radar or whatever they used to fight. It wasn't that kind. It was man to man, father against son, cousin against cousin, brother against brother. And some of us fought to remain held as slaves. And some of us are still fighting that fight today. But now we're intelligent and we're intellectual about it. And we holy about it. We holy from a Christian perspective and we holy from an Islamic perspective, holding on to mental slavery under that label of blackness. Now, I'm gonna see if I can help you understand why us fighting was so important. You notice that every time, they shut us out of things. There was a time we couldn't do this, we couldn't skate, and we couldn't swim, and we couldn't do this. And every time we get the opportunity to do something that they never allowed us to do, what do? We excel. Why do we excel? Because we are the firstborn of the human family. But we think as a minority. And when we think as a minority, it's always to catch up and do a little better. But you were already the master, but you don't understand that you were the master. Given the opportunity. All we needed was the opportunity to show how great we are. So we get into the Civil War. As of January the 1st, 1863. Now I'm going to ask you this question. Why were they trying to go to Gettysburg? I want you to think about that. Wouldn't it have been better to go to Washington, D.C.? But they was trying to get to Gettysburg, the biggest battle of the Civil War. Why were they in Pennsylvania? What was up in Pennsylvania that our forefathers had to fight and get them out of there? What was going on? Hmm. What was going on in Pennsylvania that they needed to get to destroy this union? I want you to think about this now. I'm giving you something to think about. The Liberty Bell. They was trying to get to the Liberty Bell. But see, some of us don't understand the significance of the Liberty Bell because, we've been trained at John Rowe and they made the Liberty Bell. That Liberty Bell is our ancient landmark. One of the symbols of the Liberty Bell is the fez that the brothers wear. So they were trying to get to that bell. If they destroyed that bell, they destroyed a contract. Because on that bell it says, ye shall proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof, and ye shall return every man back to his family, and ye shall return every man back to his possession. The map, the Liberty Bell on the map, uh, maps out the Rockies on the west, the Alleghenies on the east, and that crack represents the Mississippi River. Let me teach you some more science, as I was taught more science. Because I don't know what some of y'all out here doing. Y'all doing some old gangster stuff that won't get us won't get us out of this mess. 97 years of stagnation should be enough for anybody. And there are those who've made progress. Don't get it twisted. There are those who made progress, but you don't pay them no attention because you want to do your own thing. More science is not Negro science. The Moorish Science Temple is not a place to hide and pray. It's a place to learn and strategize. So, as we move forward, I hope we move forward with the beacon light of hope, knowing that we can get what is due us, what our forefathers fought and gave their lives for. 7,000 men gave their lives in one half an hour. But we don't honor them. They fought for us. They had the opportunity to fight for their freedom. Today, the soldiers are fighting for the country. But these soldiers, and from 1861 or 1863 to 1865, fought for us. And we don't give them not one iota of honor. Why is that? Why can't we respect our forefathers, the ones who fought right here? And why can't we respect what they fought, the contract they fought under? Why is that? Why is it that we can't get it together? We over here living in fantasy land. We're gonna pretend we have a government. We're gonna pretend we're caliphs and sheiks and get out of. Can y'all come out of fantasy land, please? And let us face the reality of what it is we have to do as a nation or for the nation. Vanguards. Can we get about our Father's work? Okay, so how do you know that's where we're supposed to be? Those of you who should know Act 6, now if you remember the Moorish Science Temple, Act 6 should be on your dial plate. And Act 6 says to know that they are part and partial, and some will argue part and parcel, which is fine. It doesn't even have to be an argument. It could just be a continuation, but we make it an argument. We make it an argument. It can just be a continuation um, of this said government, part and parcel of this said government. What's the government? I've never read in any of the literature that the prophet said this is the government. But we are the only ones with the power to redeem the government. So then we also have to look at what happened. Why are we where we are today? So Act 6 says that these names were given to slaves by slave holders in 1779 till 1865 during the time of slavery. So according to our lesson, slavery ended in 1865. So what happened between 1779 and 1865 was 1774 and 1865. What happened? What is it that we need to understand? So one of the ways we can do that is I'm going to share again. And I'm going to go to the Gettysburg Address because it tells you that some folks wasn't always here. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. So, on the foundation, all men are created equal. On the foundation. Now, what we practice and what the foundation is happen to end up being two different things. It says, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived upon the principle that all men are created equal and so dedicated can long endure. We met we are met on a portion of that battlefield of that war. Remember, I asked you why were they in Gettysburg? Why was the Gettysburg Address one of the most powerful and shortest addresses recognized around the world? But they told you to hate Lincoln because all he wanted to do was save the Union, not teach you what the Union was. Let's read a little further. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. You have people coming from, if you go up to Gettysburg, you have people coming from all over the world to come to Gettysburg. And some of us been in this country all our lives. We ain't even been to Gettysburg. We don't even see a significance in going to Gettysburg. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated. This is for part is for us. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. The work is still unfinished. I just want you to know, just in case you don't, I just want you to know the work still needs to be finished. It is rather for us to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us. That from these honored dead, what should we do? Take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here, us, you and I, all of us, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. But the disrespect you give to our forefathers who fought in this war to see that we had freedom, you don't give them no respect. That we here highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God and law, I'm going to have to put it on there, shall have a new birth of freedom. And it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. It didn't say a government for the Democrats and for the Republicans. It said for the people. People, where's your voice? People, what are you asking for? People, why are you so quiet? They snatched them crumbs out our hands. And we got a little shook up. We got a little shook up right now. Because them crumbs ain't coming. Because you're not supposed to be living off of crumbs. Our emancipation process, our process for actual freedom requires 3 steps: compensation, colonization, and naturalization. And I'm going to tell you why. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta stop sharing. Because, see, I was raised in more science to know something. And so we're going to go, let's see, we have to go to here we go. And I'm reading from the book The Great Conspiracy. And it says the emancipation will be unsatisfactory to the advocates of perpetual slavery, but the length and time should greatly mitigate their dissatisfaction. The time spares both races from the evils of sudden derangement. In fact, from the necessity of any derangement, while most of those whose habitual course of thought will be disturbed by the measure will have passed away before its consummation. They will never see it. Another class would hail the prospect of emancipation but would deprecate the length of time. They will feel that it gives too little to the now living slaves, but it really gives them much. It saves them from vagrant destitution, which must largely attend immediate emancipation in localities where their numbers are very great, and gives the inspiring assurance that their posterity shall be free forever. So when we talk about vagrant destitution, we're talking about our status right at this moment. Vagrant destitution meaning we have nothing to be self sufficient with. And any people, when emancipated from slavery, should receive something other than the right to vote. Now, the question should be, should we have received something? So, I'm going to have to stop sharing this for a minute. Here we go again. And I have to go to another phase here. So when we look at the Constitution, Amendment 5 of the Constitution, I'm just going to go to but I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it says that nor, and we're talking about a citizen, be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, we just read the definition of chattel slavery, and chattel slavery says that you are personal property. The Constitution says you can't take personal property without just compensation. So, and hopefully you can see this, because I need you to understand something here. Because see, you know, like I try to tell, like I've been taught, more science is what it is. More science. It's the science of actual freedom from the national side. Excuse me. Now, was the money ever law? Let's look at Section 4 of the 14th Amendment. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law. Let's read that line one more. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law. One more time. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law. Now, what are these debts they're talking about? Including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrectional rebellion. They don't want to pay the soldiers. Look at this. shall not be questioned. Now we can't ask no question. You can't petition the government for your pay that you just fought in this war for. Let's see does it get any better. But neither the United States nor shall any state shall assume or pay the debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States. Any claim for loss or emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So the question should be, when did Congress start interpreting law? Isn't that the job of the Supreme Court? It's a dead fish on the line. Now, in order to make us adapt, they didn't address slavery. They threw some discrimination in there. Y'all problem is not slavery, it's discrimination. Even though now you're still carrying the so-called slave master's name, you're still classified as property. Some well-educated property in this point, some very wealthy property at this stage of the game, but in control of nothing. See, the thing about freedom is that you have some power and control over your destiny. And so you want to know what? And I'm jumping a little bit. People gonna be crying about the EBTs, but you know who gonna be crying the most? All these little stores around here, if ain't nobody shopping. Think about it. Just take a little thought about that. So we see that the monies that we talk about is authorized by law, but they ain't giving no money. That money ain't going to nobody calling themselves Negro, Black, and Colored. It's not going in that direction. Because y'all decided that you wanted civil rights. You didn't want actual freedom. You want civil rights, voting rights. You don't even want citizenship. You have been pacified into mental slavery. How do you know when a people are in mental slavery? They live by imitation. That's how you know. They imitate everything they so-called master do. If they puffing their lips and puffing their hips, so do we. So my question, I go back to my original question. Why do we not honor the soldiers that gave their lives so that we can have actual freedom? Why don't we honor what our forefathers fought for? We ain't talking about Spain. We're not talking about Spain. We're not talking about Saudi Arabia. We're not talking about the continent. We're talking about right here in these United States, where they fought to establish a free national constitution for the Republic of the United States. What is it, or why is it, that we want to pretend that we going somewhere and we just marking time? More science will not ever integrate. Haven't you noticed that in 97 years it's never meant to integrate? It is a solution meant to replace the Negro problem, or mental slavery, or the black problem, whatever you want to call it. More science is a solution. It is not a band-aid. It's not going to feed 100 people and leave 10,000 hungry. It's not meant to work like that. If If it feeds 100, it'll feed 1,000. And if it feeds 1,000, it'll feed 10,000. But we have to collectively come together and fight this constitutional guarantee. That does not have to be renewed every 21 years, like civil rights. You have voted your way into what exactly? What have you voted? What have we as a people voted our way into? What's one of the, what's, I challenge somebody. I challenge everybody actually to show us what we have voted into for ourselves. I'd love for someone to tell me how our so-called, what our agenda is from the so-called Black Caucus. How are we moving as a people? Prophet Noble Drew Ali came on the scene 1913. Now, years are important. 1913. That should have been our first year of Jubilee. 1913. We should have been celebrating freedom. Instead, we done gone into what we call Juneteenth. And what you celebrating? An announcement. You don't even study the document. You just go with the announcement. Oh, they found out that day. Hmm. 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 So 50 years from that. Now, when we actually go into the December the 1st, 1862 process proclamation, compensated proclamation, it takes the census up to 1930. 1928 ain't nothing happened. And so the prophet had declared a new era of time, August the 1st, 1928, 2:52 p.m. Where did he do it? In the land of Lincoln. Somebody told me all you do is talk about Lincoln. Actually, I'm talking about the prophet. The prophet came so we could get our birthrights, right? According to what law? Somebody told me we need reparations. This is not an international issue. And everybody who was on an international level who got reparations was already a nation. Reparations insults the intelligence of more science. It shows a lack of understanding. You have a prophet who brought you all this information, and you so arrogant in your mental slavery till you won't even humble yourself enough to learn. You so arrogant in your mental slavery that you practice segregation and a movement that teaches love instead of hate. You so arrogant until you just keep creating divisions and a movement that does not require division. So yeah, I might sound a little upset. I probably am. But my point is, it's not too late to get it right. It's not too late for us to sit down at the table and strategize and plan on how we're going to move for our posterity. It's not too late. It's only too late if we don't want to follow directions. And we've been kind of like 97 years late on that one. Let's not let the 98th year go by with young folks talking about, well, we're gonna put the old folks in the back because blah 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 blah. You realize how many young folks I've heard say that, and they're not even in the temple anymore. How many young folks go, oh, we gonna get this done. Yeah. History of the present is deep in the past. And you keep making the same mistake. You put the prophet on the back burner instead of holding him up and letting him light the way for you. Yeah, you well trained, man. You know what the prophet say, jumping through that hoop, then turn around and justify your jumping. This is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. You're home. Your Liberty Bell says you're home. Your Fez says you're home. That sacred rap sister says you're home. But you got to get home in the mind. You got to get home in the realization of who we are. It's time to come home. It's time to move forward. It's almost time to go. So hopefully you've at least have a better understanding of why we should honor our forefathers who fought for us during the Civil War, who shed blood for us. Some of them were skinned alive, heads cut off. There was a book called The Black Book, and on the Black Book, they were cooking one of us. I said exactly what I meant, cooking. And us, being us, we changed the cover of the book because it was too gruesome for us, because we couldn't face that reality. But we need to get uncomfortable in mental slavery. Please let us get uncomfortable so that we can do something for ourselves and our posterity. The prophet said, he said, teach our children some fundamentals. I'm not going to put this one up on the screen. He says, in connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations. And when he's talking about objects, you know he's talking about objectives, right? Of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization. He's talking to America Moors. Now, if he's telling America that and you not getting it, we got a problem. I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organizations covering its inception, rise, and progress of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you to be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect, and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Those are the things we're supposed to uh, teach our posterity. So I'm going to close with my poem because we only got a few minutes. And it says, don't just proclaim, be the change. Don't just say his name, be the purpose. Be the way, learning and teaching and reclaiming your mind, the one that you lost. Thank Prophet Drew Ali for restoring our true nationality. For truth is art, art is a law, and without truth, you just telling a lie. You can't fake as a rebellion. It is a revolution. It is about change, not just changing your name. Don't just proclaim, be the change. Wake, realize we are not livestock. We are not dogs and bitches and diggers and hoes. We are men, we are women in glorious light. Don't just proclaim, be the change. Don't just proclaim, demand a true change, a true emancipation process. Actual freedom is our progress. Don't dress the part and not know the verbiage. So that's my little point for today. And I will say to you, thank you. And remember, embrace the prophet, embrace Allah, embrace divine and national, embrace one another, and embrace the mission. And we thank you and appreciate you for allowing us to bring to you the Moorish Light Continues. The podcast is a revolution. So on that note, I'm going to oh, there was one other thing. See, I'm always forgetting something. Give me 1 second. President Lincoln, citizenship. Don't kneel to me. That is not right. You must kneel to God only and thank Him for the liberty you will hereafter enjoy. I am but God's humble instrument. You may rest assured that as long as I live, no one shall put shackles on your limbs, and you shall have all the rights which God has given to every other free citizen of this republic. How did we get to civil rights and reparations? So, on that note, I'm going to say peace and love. I'm going to get some music and stuff eventually, y'all. Just give me a minute. Anyway, have a prosperous week, and may Allah continue to bless us. Peace and love.